Other people's reactions and even our own reactions are not our responsibility. Our response to those reactions are. So often when we find ourselves in these unfavorable situations, we immediately react in a certain way, right? There's an immediate emotion that comes into play. There's immediate thoughts that come into play. Maybe something somebody said, maybe something somebody did, something that's happening to you. And we get these immediate reactions. And then we feel that because these immediate reactions are less than favorable, that we must be doing something wrong. We shouldn't be reacting like this. We shouldn't be feeling like this. This person shouldn't be saying this. But this is not the case. What we have to be focusing on is our response and awareness to those initial reactions to make better decisions. Hi, I'm Mike. I have had OCD and anxiety for the past 10 years of my life, and I turn that turmoil into tools and I share them with you. So often when we find ourselves in these situations that arise in us an anger or arise in us a fear or a frustration, right? We immediately judge ourselves based off of how we initially react to a situation. At least I know I did. Having OCD, I would immediately label and I would immediately judge myself because I jumped to anger, because I jumped to fear, because I started jumping to different conclusions. And then I would judge myself like, why do you keep jumping to all of these conclusions? Why do you keep reacting this way? But the reality of the situation is those reactions are well beyond our control, believe it or not, because we do have control over our emotions to some degree, but not nearly as much as we think we do. And it's about allowing these emotions to pass and allowing these emotions and the reactions to be there and then responding appropriately to those reactions rather than immediately letting those reactions dictate our actions. You just have to bring awareness to what it is that's going on. So if there is something that somebody said, is there something that's happened? If there's something that happens to you, okay, there's going to be an immediate reaction. It's going to happen. It's going to be impulsive. It's a knee-jerk reaction, right? We have emotions built in us for a reason. And so when that happens, simply being aware of the process of what it is that's going on can help you to respond better to these things rather than, okay, this is that initial reaction. This is that initial emotional reaction to whatever it is that's going on. And being aware, letting that settle for a little bit, bringing your awareness to that before you respond appropriately. It is in that gap between what happens to us and that initial emotional reaction that can help us to make those better decisions. Okay, let me give you an example. So, if something happens to you and you're immediately flooded with anxiety or frustration, well, what am I going to do? How is this going to work? Right. And then you might immediately feel that urge to respond right off the bat rather than allowing that reaction to settle first, right? So instead of reacting on that initial response of fear, of anger, of frustration, whatever it is, you want to bring your awareness to what's going on. And then how can I respond in a way that's going to be productive and appropriate to what it is that's going on rather than getting caught up in that initial reactionary response, right? And realizing that that initial reactionary response is not our responsibility and you can let it play out in whatever way, shape, or form that may be, okay? The second thing that we have to remind ourselves is that other people's reactions are not our responsibility either. What I mean by that is we can't judge ourselves based off of how the other person responds, right? So if we say something or do something that we know is the right decision or that we know are the right words, but then the other person responds in an aggressive and abrasive manner for whatever reason, they're angry, they're frustrated. How could you do this? How could you do that? Their reaction, okay, is not reality. What I mean by that is just because they responded poorly, it doesn't mean that you chose poorly. Okay. It very well might be the case. You might have said something that have set them off, and you will know whether or not you did or not. But often, at least for me, I would get so caught up in the only way that I can assess myself that I made the correct decision or I said the right thing or I did the right thing is if the other person was level-headed. If the situation, if that other person wasn't emotionally charged at that moment. Like if they were angry and frustrated and then I said something to try and diffuse a situation, but they're still angry and frustrated, I would say, oh, then I must still have done something wrong. So I need to continue at this situation. You can say all the right things and do all the right things, and people can still be pissed off and people can still be angry, right? Here's a hard truth. You can communicate everything. You could be a phenomenal communicator. You could say the right things, do the right things, have the best intentions, and still get blamed for doing something wrong, and still get criticized, and still get misunderstood, right? So the only thing that is well within our control is how we respond, is where our character is built. As we continuously build upon better responses to these reactions, and thus we build our character. Because look, life doesn't always give us answers. It doesn't always give us a roadmap. It doesn't always tell us what to respond to and what to react to. But what it does do, it gives us these opportunities that we can use to seek and build virtues that we can use later on down in life to make better decisions. That's what this channel is all about. If that's something that interests you, hit that subscribe button. I post easy to follow, pragmatic videos once a week with different prayers, different tools, and shorts that can help you out in your life. So remember, your reaction and other people's reactions are not your responsibility, but how you respond to those reactions are. I'll catch you on the next one, kid. Rooting for you.